Hello everyone, my name is Catherine. Today I'm going to be talking about the Ordinariate Mass. So I had my first experience with the Ordinariate Mass last night in New York City on the Upper East Side at St. Vincent Fervor Church. I love that church. It's so gorgeous. It's a French Gothic church. And they do all sorts of cool things in this church, including the Ordinariate Mass for this one-time special occasion. This is not something that normally takes place in New York City, but it was so cool. Now I'll be honest with you guys, this was my first time experiencing it, so I'm going to be reading off my phone a lot for this and explaining what exactly an Ordinariate Mass is to the best of my abilities. All things will be linked down below, all my sources, everything like that. But let's start with what it is. So it is not a traditional Latin Mass, but it is also not the basic Novus Ordo Mass. It is a Mass for, specifically, it's for everybody, okay, right? It's a Catholic Mass, right? The host you consume, you fulfill your Sunday obligation, you fulfill the sacrament of Holy Communion, all that good stuff. It is 100% a Catholic Mass. But it was originally for Anglicans, right? The Church of England, and Episcopals, who are the American Church of England branch, whatever. It is for them to bring their traditions into the Catholic faith because they want to become Catholics, but they want to bring some of their traditions in with them. Because unfortunately they did split, the Church of England did split from the Holy See about 500 years ago, right? With Henry VIII and all that nonsense. They did split, and in those 500 years, they acquired some really beautiful traditions. And with those traditions, they want to bring that into the Catholic Church. Best equivalent for this is Italians, right? They come to the United States, they assimilate, they become citizens, they have children, their children are citizens, they learn English, all this good stuff, but at Thanksgiving, they're still gonna serve lasagna. You know what I mean? So this Mass is not a Protestant service. It's not an Anglican service. It really 100% is a Catholic service, but there are certain traditions sprinkled in throughout. So this was all really Pope Benedict's big thing. Pope Benedict is so amazing. In 2011, Pope Benedict XVI invited us, the Anglicans, converting to Catholicism, to establish the Ordinariate, to maintain the liturgical, spiritual, and pastoral traditions of the Anglican Communion with the Catholic Church as a precious gift, nourishing the faith of the members of the Ordinariate as a treasure to be shared. Pope Benedict called it a treasure to be shared. I love that man. So I really do believe these were treasures to be shared. I personally have no English background, no Protestant, no Anglican, no Episcopal, none of that. None of that as far as I know in my history. Everyone was Catholic. But I wanted to go to this Mass because I wanted to see what it was about, and I'm so glad I did. So what is an ordinariate? It is a diocesan-like structure to serve a specific mission and pastoral need. It overlaps with the established territorial Roman Rite diocese, but is its own jurisdiction, with its own bishop. The Ordinariate of the Chair of St. Peter is the Ordinariate established for the United States and Canada. So the leader of the Ordinariate for the United States and Canada is Bishop Stephen. He was appointed by a bishop in 2015. So, right, it's not necessarily like a geographical location, right? In Brooklyn, there is the Diocese of Brooklyn and there is the Bishop of Brooklyn. That's what you're working with there. Whereas the Ordinariate here is covering Canada and the United States. The headquarters, or the seat of the bishop of the personal ordinary of the Chair of St. Peter, is at the Cathedral of Our Lady of Walsingham in Houston, Texas. In addition to the cathedral, the Ordinariate has over 40 parishes and missions across the US and Canada, with new ones starting every year. The Ordinariate usually has the same readings as the Novus Ordo Mass. We celebrate Mass according to the divine worship, the Missal, an adaptation of the Roman Rite that praises God with the eloquence of the Anglican liturgical patrimony and the traditional prayer book English. So there are a few differences. Like I said, I felt like I was at a traditional English Mass. It's so similar to the traditional Latin Mass. Of course, it is in English, and it also has different readings. So it's not a puzzle. I've always found like the traditional Latin Mass is kind of a puzzle because I'm flipping back and forth and all over. I mean, I love the traditional Latin Mass, don't get me wrong, but it was cool to just, I mean, granted, they gave us this thing where it explained everything. Our Lady of Walsingham, I had never heard of her before, but apparently she's really big in England. I won't go into too much detail on her. I think today's her feast day. Last night was the vigil for her feast day. But there was one really cool part, like they're doing the incense, they're going all over the place. So this is controversial, I know. But during communion, again, it was in St. Vincent Fervor, which is this really cool Catholic church in New York City that has a communion rail. I know not all churches, unfortunately, have communion rails anymore. But it said when we were supposed to receive communion, the priest consumes the body and blood of Christ. Then he distributes Holy Communion to the ministers and people. Communion is received while kneeling at this Mass. Now again, this was my only time going to this Mass. I don't know if communion is received kneeling at all of the Masses. I love receiving communion kneeling. I don't do it normally because I've talked to priests about this. the priests that I know don't like when you receive communion kneeling because it kind of disrupts the flow and people can walk in and get knocked over and blah, blah, blah. So I typically only receive communion kneeling if there is a communion rail. So one of these things with the Anglican priests coming in, the Episcopal priests coming in, is sometimes they are married because that is allowed. However, if you want to become a Catholic priest and you're leaving the Anglican religion, they don't tell you have to divorce your wife, right? No one's gonna do that. The Catholic Church isn't gonna say, divorce your wife, oh my gosh. No, they're not gonna tell you to do that. However, it is on a case-by-case basis whether or not you become a priest. Of course, they're not just gonna let anyone become a priest. Just because you're a priest in the Anglican Church does not mean you're gonna become a priest in the Catholic Church. They're gonna do the background checks, they're gonna make you go through all this rigorous training, everything, all that good stuff. However, if you are approved to become a Catholic priest after all of this, and you have a wife and she passes away, you cannot remarry. You're gonna be a widower for life. How is the liturgy different from other Roman Rite masses? Most Roman Catholic parishes celebrate the ordinary form of the Mass, which is mostly vernacular and is usually celebrated facing the people. A growing number celebrate the extraordinary form of the Mass, which is entirely in Latin and was the Mass promulgated and used since the Council of Trent in the 16th century. Ritually, the ordinariate form appears more like the extraordinary form, with the priest facing the altar addressing God. However, while retaining many of the rituals of the traditional liturgical seasons of the Latin Mass, the ordinariate form is celebrated in a dignified prayer book English. It's English, not Latin, you guys. It has some elements of the ordinary form in that the readings are proclaimed towards the people. 3 readings are proclaimed on Sundays, and the 3-year cycle is used for a richer coverage of sacred scripture. Now, let's just make this clear. While it is distinct, it is not meant to replace the Roman Rite, the Novus Ordo, but simply to exist alongside as a complementary form of Catholic worship, right? They're not looking to replace anything. Is it a competitor of the Catholic Church? The Ordinariate and its Mass are not in competition, but are seen as a complementary way to share in the Catholic mission and faith. And you guys know me, I love the traditional stuff, I love the ritual stuff, I love the mystical stuff. It was incense on incense last night, and I loved it. All right, you guys, I am so sorry for being so pale. I'm filming this at night because I really wanted to get this video out. But anyway, now I'm going to include some vlog clips from last night, from before and after the Mass. You know, I just love showing New York City as well, so I have a few clips from New York City, but I'm going to show those vlog clips. I obviously did not film the Mass. Hello everyone, I'm in New York City. I'm on my way to an Ordinariate Mass. I forgot my camera and microphone, that's why we're doing this action today. You know, I am learning more about the traditional Latin Mass. I'm very much enjoying it. But this type of a Mass, an Ordinariate Mass, is not offered very frequently, which is shocking because everything's offered in Manhattan very frequently. This has only been offered, I think, one other time in Manhattan, and they're trying to make it more popular with a bunch of Anglican converts. Of course, it's more directed towards Anglican converts, but it's allowed for everybody, you know, anyone can go. So I'm really excited to go. It's at St. Vincent Fervor. This parish also has the Dominican Rite Mass offered every single week. They have daily Masses in the afternoon. So I really love this church. I've been here many times before, and I'm excited to take you guys with me. All right, you guys, first impressions, that Mass was so cool, so interesting. Loved it. Of course, I love all that ritual and everything. That's what one of the many reasons I'm drawn to the Catholic Church. I love it, and I just love living here, you guys, and I get to experience all these different things. I love New York City. This really is an ecumenical bridge, right? It's helping people transition into the Catholic Church, but preserving those traditions and everything. And like I said, like, I have no English ties. I have nothing to do with the Church of England, but I was really moved by the tradition and everything like that. And on a personal note, I told a priest friend of mine who's around my age that I was starting to get into the traditional Latin Mass, and I love it right now. And I asked him, Father, do you think we're gonna go back? Do you think we're gonna go back to this Mass that our grandparents went to? And he just said, no, I don't think we're ever going to go back to the traditional Latin Mass, but something's going to change. He thinks something, and I think so too, as a lay person who just makes Catholic girl stuff, who's not an apologist, I think something's going to change, maybe in my lifetime, I hope so, to make it more reverent, more traditional. And I think, I don't know, something like this, I could see maybe catching on a little bit more. It was also a high mass, right? It had all the bells and whistles and incense and everything like that. And you know, with a TLM, I go to low masses when I go to the daily masses and everything. Like it's not like that all the time, right? We're not getting these full-on choirs. They had like a beautiful full-on choir. We're not getting these full-on choirs at every mass in these gorgeous, you know, humongous churches in Manhattan. But like, I don't know. I hope to learn more about the Ordinariate. I'll have all their information linked down below. I'm not going to say I'm going to go to their mass every single week or anything like that if they do come to New York, but I definitely was touched, and I'm very happy. I want to read more about Our Lady of Welsingham. Mainly because I just want to read more about Our Lady. Let me know if you guys have ever been to a mass like this before. There's so much in New York I want to share with you guys. I love making New York content, so hopefully I'll be making more of that. And I give this video a thumbs up, hit the bell, hit subscribe so you never miss one of my videos. It really helps out the algorithm. I appreciate you guys so much. Have a great day. Bye.